This episode was sponsored by Payton Beauties. If you ever need hair care needs, jump over to my Instagram, Payton Beauties, and I'd love to help you out.
I'm Kylie.
I'm Payton, and this is Fires of Change.
Hello, welcome back. Today is Thursday, August 21st, 2025, and we are so happy to have you again for the second episode of season 3.
Third, right?
Oh, yes, third.
Woo, third.
Yes. Wow, time is moving quickly. But yes, today's episode is going to be surrounding mythology, more so like Greek mythology, as well as talking about some cryptids and just mythological creatures, fantasy, things of the like. But before we get into that, of course, we are going to learn about some things that are happening currently. And I'm going to pass it over to Payton so she can tell us about some of these events.
Thanks, Kylie. Yeah, so obviously, with this day and age, our current events are not really that positive, but we need to know about them. So, what is going on in Texas? So, for people that don't know what gerrymandering is, this is what's going on in Texas. It's defined in the context of a representative electoral system. It's the political manipulation of electoral district boundaries to an advantage of a party, group, or socioeconomic class. So basically, what is happening in Texas is they are trying to redistrict to be able to gain 5 votes that would favor in the Republican Party. And I guess Trump basically called on them to do this. And so I guess they voted and it's it went through partly. It still has to be approved by Greg Abbott. But basically what this means for this new map is it basically gives more power to white communities and it takes away power from the Black and brown communities. So with this new seat map or map for the representatives of Congress would basically be 1 to every 440,000 white people, 1 representative for 1.4 million Hispanic voters, and 1 to 2 million Black voters. So that basically means that Black and brown voters have less political pull because they're basically taking representatives from their districts and putting it in white districts. So why this is very scary is it's basically not showing the diversity in the government, but again, it's also manipulating the way that Congress is set up and run. And obviously then having these representatives for the white communities are going to, obviously we talk about white supremacy all the time. They're going to favor white people and then it's going to further disenfranchise Black and brown communities. So that's basically what's going on in Texas right now. So it's very scary. There's a lot of people that are obviously trying to fight back. I posted a couple of them on my story, but yeah, it's scary. Again, and this is just the first of many situations that this could happen. And this sets a precedent of basically being well, if they can do this in Texas, where else can they do it? So yeah, that's what's going on.
Yeah. Very, again, not good stuff to hear. Texas is already a very conservative state. So It's interesting that they're trying to consolidate more power
Mm-hmm.
for the Republicans, and yeah, there's just a lot going on in Texas, especially with the state representative Nicole Collier that is being held in the state capitol. Um, I'm not sure if she's still there. She got released. Okay. Yes. But they made her stay or they said she could not leave the house without a police escort. And she wasn't going for that. So they're like, yeah, you can't leave. So she,
Or they called it a permission slip, where she had to be escorted by. That was the phrasing that they used.
hmm and this was only for the Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just,
From what I read, I guess they basically forced because they were all trying to basically delay this vote. And so then they basically got police escorts in where they were like, you have to vote or you're getting arrested basically if you don't sign this thing. So authoritative government, authoritarianism, this is what fascism looks like when you get military or police involved in government things like this or against the citizens that pay for it. Again, fascism right in your face.
yes. So definitely keep an eye on these things because there's a lot of things going on nationwide, just in so many different states. And we have to be aware of these things to, it's just good to stay aware.
Stay vigilant.
Yes, but moving into the meat of today's episode, discussing, the different myths and I guess folk tales and, things of the like. As a kid, I was always really into mythology, specifically like Greek mythology and Roman mythology, and just all of the different origin stories are very interesting just to read across different cultures and how the phenomenon of the natural world is explained. But within Greek mythology, I was always drawn to Aphrodite just because I thought it was really cool that she was the goddess of love and passion and, beauty and all that stuff. And so, for those of you who don't know, that's where the word aphrodisiac comes from. Excuse me. So it's just, I've just always been interested in that kind of thing. And so with Aphrodite, her Roman counterpart was is Venus. So a lot of the Roman mythology and the Greek mythology are pretty similar. They just have or the deities at least. They represent the same things, but they just have different names. So she rules over sex, passion, pleasure, as well as warfare. And she was actually birthed from the sea foam that gathered from the remains of the genitals of Uranus, who was a deity as well. And so if you are familiar with the painting, The Birth of Venus by, couldn't tell you the artist, but it's a very famous painting. So The Birth of Venus, where she's standing in the seashell and she's, oh, sorry. And she's covering her downstairs area, and there's all the sea foam and stuff like that. So that was really cool to learn that she was born from the sea foam, because I didn't know that specific part, but just
that's interesting.
That she was from the shell. And so she was usually seen with Eros, who was the not necessarily god, but I guess symbol of love. And she is the daughter of Zeus and Dion. She was married to Hephaestus, and she had a pretty prolific affair with Ares, who was the god of war. And so it's interesting because Venus is, like, in astrology, Venus is the planet that controls love and passion and sex and things like that. And then with Aries, that is the that pertains to Mars, which is the planet of aggression and war and, anger and just like masculinity and like, yeah, themes like that. So it's interesting how mythology and astrology merge or are informed by each other. But anyways, yes, so she was married to Hephaestus, and she was kind of known as like a troublemaker. Like, she was just always involved in drama and just kind of getting into other people's business or causing mess for other people. And so with her husband Hephaestus, like, people didn't, Aphrodite, obviously, with being the goddess of love and beauty and all that stuff, she's a very beautiful woman. So her and her man just weren't equally yoked in that area. He wasn't really cute like that. Like, he wasn't polished. So it just wasn't really like a match. Obviously, because she was cheating on him. But yeah, so Helios, which was the sun, was, seeing all of this, obviously being the sun, he was able to see all of the things that were going on the earthly domain. So he had reached out to Aphrodite's husband and been like, hey, like, your bitch is out here cheating on you. So, let me, I know people don't like to hear the word. That's just how I talk sometimes. Don't take it wrong because I said bitch. Your lady is out here cheating on you. Let me self-censor. But yeah, so he had Hephaestus had come up with this plan. He was he was very good with hammers, very good with his hands. He was able to make a lot of things. So he was able to make these very fine but very strong golden chains. And he arranged them all over the bedroom in like a net pattern. To, basically get them caught up because he knows that she's cheating on him. So he, wanted to catch them because he said like, oh, I'm going to go on a trip to, wherever the fuck. And then he left. And so he goes on his trip, and then Ares and Aphrodite go in the bedroom. They get into it, and then they get all tangled up with these super fine chains that are unbreakable. And so Hephaestus comes back in and he catches them and he's like, now I see what y'all are doing. And so he calls in all of the other gods and goddesses on Mount Olympus to, basically like, hey, this is what this girl's doing. She's supposed to be my wife, but she's fucking Aries. So he wants to ask Zeus, Aphrodite's father, for the dowry back that he paid for her hand in marriage. And so Zeus is like, well, I'm going to make sure that Ares pays it since he's the one who has been consorting with your wife, knowing that she's married. And so, yeah, that's how that particular story ended. But yeah, it was just always interesting to me to see like how the different, like what the different gods and goddesses like represent, and like how that informs their personality and how they act and stuff like that. Because yeah, when you think of somebody who is super like vain and like sex obsessed and stuff like that, that probably is how they would act, just doing a lot of crazy stuff. But the other gods and goddesses, based off of what they represent and I guess their focus is, they act differently, obviously. So yeah, that was my story with Aphrodite, my favorite goddess.
Honestly, I love how you storytell because it's like you make it feel like I'm just talking to my friend about some drama.
Yeah, because that's basically how it was. Like that's what they were.
Well, and to
That's what
think
they were
about
doing.
that back then, it's not like they had phones and stuff. So like the drama was probably really good and like just like maybe working with them or whatever. Like the servants probably knew so much shit about them.
Yeah, yeah. They had the inside scoop.
Like, did you ever watch the show Rain? It was about like Mary, Queen of Scots, and like, but it was like all the like servants and like worker people, like they knew all the shit going on in the castle. And it honestly, it was really good. You should watch it. But it was kind of after the real Mary, Queen of Scots, which obviously wasn't like mythical creatures or anything, but I always just love when shows do stuff like that. Like the Percy Jackson movie series. Like, I loved those. I honestly wish, and I'm fucking pissed because the guy that plays him is married to a fucking creepy old lady that snatched him up. And so that's why we never got more of those fucking movies.
Oh wow,
Logan?
Mm-hmm. Logan Lerman.
damn.
Yeah. He was like 18 and she was like 43 and had kids. Yeah, and they're still married to this day. And everyone makes jokes about like Ariana Grande, like this is the only time you should slide in and like all this stuff. But yeah, super sad.
Yeah, that's very weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yucky.
Icky.
But yes, I definitely remember reading those books and really enjoying them and just like having a like fresh spin on the on Greek mythology was really
Mhm.
cool. So I really enjoyed those books. What else did I like? I've talked about this before, but the that book series of like the different, this isn't really mythological, but it's kind of like along the same veins, more of like historical, um I guess maybe folk tales. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Like, but those books from the girls from like different royal families in different
Yeah.
empires, like, from the Japanese empires or like ancient Egyptian societies or, stuff like that. I just really loved history as a kid. Like that was my big thing. And like all the big like mythology books, so like all
Mhm.
about Roman mythology or all about Greek mythology. What else was I into? I also was very interested in like cryptids and stuff like that, like learning about
Okay.
like, and even still to this day, like I'll get into like certain TikTok rabbit holes and stuff, but like learning about La Llorona and like how
Ooh.
like that story and
Mhm.
like, and it's interesting because there's so many people who are like, oh yeah, when I'm in Mexico, like we know that we're not supposed to, go out at certain times. And if we hear, like I've heard her or I've seen her or whatever the case may be, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. Or what's like chupacabras,
Mhm.
which some people are like, oh, it's just, a skinless dog, or oh, it's just this, oh, it's just that. Skinwalkers.
Oh my God, skinwalkers. That creeps me out. That lore.
Yeah. Like anything about it, like Appalachia, I'm like, I don't think I'll
Oh,
ever go to Appalachia. Like it just seems like there's a lot going on there.
yeah. A lot of
Yeah.
scary energy. And well, okay, so I started watching the show From, and it's like basically these people, it starts with a family in an RV and they're like driving into this town and they get stuck because there's like a tree branch in the road. And so they go into town and then they keep trying to leave. Every time, even if they leave a different way, all this stuff, they still come back to this tree branch. And so eventually they like go in this town and they're like, what the fuck? And the people in the town are basically like, well, you have to get inside. We'll explain. Like they're being all scary and creepy. But there ends up being these like monster things at night that look like humans, but they're like, I don't even know what they are, honestly. They're like these creatures that like, they look like humans, they get close and then they attack you. So they have these talisman in it, and you have to hang this talisman over the door so like they can't get in. And so basically everyone doesn't understand how they got there because they showed up at different points. Like some people were driving in Austin, Texas, other people were driving from like Seattle, and they all ended up in this point. So I haven't finished it yet. I'm on season 2. It's really good. But it's just stuff like that where in the trees, like people like see shit, like they like start having hallucinations. But then there's these trees where they are and like spoiler alert, they're like time warps basically, or like they almost like you can go in the tree and it transports you to somewhere else, like if you need to get out of like a scary situation. So it's just like stuff like that. Like honestly, the people remind me of skinwalkers in the show. But it's so creepy, but it's a really good show. It's my new favorite obsession right now.
What is it on?
Okay, so I think you can watch it for free on obviously like pirated stuff, but I did do the week trial of the MGM app, and then I've been binge watching it, and then I think it's like $6.99, so I'll probably pay for it once and then cancel it. But yeah. It's so good.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting. When you were talking about that, I was reminded, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it, but there was another book series that I really liked. What is it called? I don't even know what it was called, but it was so good. Yes, Daughters of the Moon. Oh my God, I loved these books. So basically it was like, I don't know how to explain it, but it was like these books. It was like a young adult book series that was kind of based on mythology. So it would have like different, there were different books in the series that represented different like goddesses and stuff like that. So
Okay.
they all got their powers from the Greek moon goddess Selene. And it was just so, oh my God. I'm just so glad that I really loved books like and reading, because reading is so important, you know, like it's just, and that's why I don't know, like reading is just very important. You know, there's books for every type of person. If you want to, like, if you're more of a fiction person, if you're nonfiction, if you want to learn about people, if you want to learn about concepts, if you want to, you know, everything that you need to learn is within a book. So, yeah, I'm just very glad that I still have that love of reading in my life. But yeah, those books were really cool. Just kind of because it was, you know, still talking about, you know, typical like teenage things that, you know,
Right.
people go through, you know, dilemmas and stuff like that, but still within like the theme of mythology. So it was fantasy, but then it was realistic at the same time. So
See, I love when they do that because it just makes it so much more relatable for the reader or like the watcher or whatever it is. But like, yeah, like even like I feel like with Percy Jackson, like it did that because it's like, oh, a modern version, like you said, like, oh, love that.
yeah. Yeah. So I just love, you know, reading about, and I hope that adult fiction is really interesting, but I wish there was more. Well, maybe I need to just do more research and like go to different libraries, but I still enjoy, you know, reading fantasy books as an adult. So I would love to see if there's a similar series as this, but for, the adult reader.
Like,
But
if any of our listeners have ideas or whatever, put it in our comment section.
suggestions, yes, please put us on. But in terms of like cryptids and stuff like that, what's another one? The Loch Ness monster. Like I was just always like, whoa, like what's going on with that? Or Bigfoot, like especially being out here in Colorado, like, there's a lot of mountainous areas. So there are, sometimes when you go hiking or when you're in certain, areas, you will see like, oh, there's this, Bigfoot sighting or like whatever. And I just think that, I mean, there's no way that it's just us in
Right.
this world.
No. I just think that our world is so fucked up to anything it doesn't understand that like they probably at this point have learned to hide and stay out of like human sight. Cause like even like obviously we love mermaids and like the amount of stories I've heard down these like crazy rabbit holes that like they catch mermaids and there's like mermaid eating parties and like just shit like that is beyond crazy to me. But obviously like people think they contain some sort of magical whatever, But it's like there's no way that mermaids don't exist or didn't exist because so many cultures like wrote about them around the world that never had interactions to like talk about it and get on the same page, but there's so many depictions of them. So it's like there has to be mermaids or fairies. I love fairy stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point because like there's so many like specifically with mermaids, like I know a lot of communities in the Caribbean have like sightings or their own things about mermaids, as well as in Nigeria. A lot of places in Nigeria or like Ghana, and those are both coastal countries. So it's yeah, I don't think that, just like you said, I don't think that it's a coincidence that, multiple cultures have these same beings.
Yeah, and like speaking of that, Kylie inspired me to get some Reddit posts for mermaid stuff. So also have not read through them. We're gonna do a blind reaction. So we got two. I'm like, so I'll read one, and then honestly, I love when Kylie reads them, so she's gonna read the other one.
Okay.
She's a good storyteller.
Thank you.
Okay, so someone said in 2021, I was in Montego Bay, Jamaica, and I was sitting on the beach alone during a silent lightning storm at night. And all of a sudden, I felt this intense urge to run into the water. Mind you, I don't swim. After a while, the urge intensified, and I stupidly went in to put my feet in the water. I remember the water was bubbling and it was pitch black.
Bubbling?
And yeah, I know, like, ew, that's scary.
Oh wow.
And it was pitch black, and I immediately felt a sense of dread and danger and ran out of the water. After getting out, I went back to sit down on my folding chair, and out of nowhere, a bolt of lightning lit up the sky and the sea, and I saw a big black figure with long hair not too far away from me, staring at me from the water. After the lightning was gone, the figure was nowhere to be found. I sat there for half an hour trying to figure out what that figure I saw was, but it never appeared again. I really believe it was a mermaid trying to take me out to the sea. Ooh.
That's so scary. Oh my gosh. Yeah, okay. So that was one of the rabbit holes that I went down. I was in this rabbit hole for a while, but it was like a lot of people in Jamaica saying that there's this specific bridge. I have a lot of rabbit holes when it comes to water. Like, I don't know, there's a lot of like waterways that I'm just like, whoa, what's going on here? This is weird. This is crazy. And so anyways, there's this one bridge in Jamaica called Flat Bridge where apparently there's a lot of there are mermaid sightings, and then it's just a really dangerous bridge. So like a lot of people pass away there because there's not really like any like guardrails on either side. So yeah, that is very scary. But
Creepy.
I really want to go to Jamaica. That I'm planning on going sometime next year. So I'll let y'all know if I don't want to have a mermaid experience. It doesn't sound like it's a good thing. But yeah, so let's see. This story reads, my experience was similar. I was alone at the beach during the daytime, but this beach wasn't well known in a town of 10,000 people called Rockport, Texas.
Ooh.
Well, I'm going to Texas next week. So if I do see a mermaid, we're going to Galveston. If we do see a mermaid, we will let you know.
Ooh.
So I guess it's any body of water. Just be vigilant. This happened in 2022. I was just waiting in the water, sitting at the shore. No one knew about this hidden little spot because it wasn't the main beach in town that everyone went to. Really, only the locals knew, and not even some locals knew. I mean, like, you had to live right by it to know about it. Found it on a walk one day. And every time I went there was never anyone there. At the most, I would see one or two other people there, usually the same folks with their cars and dogs. It was always me and two other people there. But it was rare when I ran into anyone because again, it was tiny. It was a tiny little shore made of shells, and it wasn't like actual sand. It hurt to walk on the shells because they would stab your feet. This person is really setting the scene. But anyways, I liked the solitude of the place and would walk there often. It was like 4 blocks from my place roughly. So this one day I was waiting right just had my lower half in the water, and my arms were perching me up, and I was just like kicking my feet. And I felt the urge to go far into the ocean and felt something calling me to go deeper. But my gut told me it was evil and dangerous and threatening. Then I saw 2 heads pop up not too far from the shore, but far enough, and that's where I was feeling called to swim to. And I so badly wanted to. But I knew they were going to take me to their people and drown me and kill me and use me for evil doing.
Oh.
And I will never forget those 2 mermaid/siren heads I saw. I knew they were mermaids because there was no one else there, no cars and no boats nearby. They just showed up out of nowhere. They looked human from the distance. I could make their heads out and saw their brown hair too, and could make out the outline of their faces. But I knew they were not human because they showed up out of nowhere and then disappeared shortly into nowhere. I did see them swim off after I rejected them, and it was interesting because they also looked a little like the way dolphins swam. At first, I couldn't tell if they were human or dolphin, but as I looked closer is when I realized what they were. And also logically, I was like, they're not human because they were underwater swimming like they were dolphins, but they looked human and appeared out of thin air. If they were human, I would have known. But they could breathe underwater for so long, and they swam like dolphins/fish. They're real 100%.
Ooh, she was like, no, I know what I saw.
She had no doubts. But yeah, like, I don't know. I've definitely heard that when you're going into bodies of water, you're not supposed to be wearing like jewelry of any sort because they really like gold, they like silver, and they're thinking that like you're offering them something. So yes, if you're ever, specifically if you're in, a place like the Caribbean, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on in these places. So a lot of people, there's crazy stuff everywhere, but in different places, it's more like concentrated. Like, for example, I've only been to Uganda once, but when I went, my mom was very like overprotective because there are certain things that witchcraft is real, is what I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there are certain things that you wouldn't necessarily see out here, or it's less common for you to see out here just because of the nature of this place. Unless you're in the South, there's a lot of, the South is also a place that has a lot of spiritual, I would say the South and the Southwest, the American Southwest. Honestly, Appalachia too, but that's considered part of the South. Parts of it is considered the South. Yeah, so there are just, I'm definitely a believer that certain places have certain energies and maybe like higher concentrations of certain energies. So there are just, and a lot of people from, the DR or Jamaica or, certain places will tell you like, oh yeah, you don't go into the water, past a certain time, or, if you are going to go in the water, make sure you're not wearing this, or, oh, we don't go in this body of water because, excuse me, because we don't know what's in there. We've always been told not to go in this part of the water. So we just don't. But yeah, it's interesting because the word for mermaid in Spanish is sirena. And yeah, like that person's story where they were talking about like just feeling an intense urge to like go in the water. Like, yeah, that's all what it's all about. Like they make you want to go into the water and, go to your death. So it's just really interesting. And honestly, whenever I like am near bodies of water, I too feel an urge to like
go out there.
yeah, to get
it
in
looks
there.
peaceful, it looks inviting. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's just water is a very powerful force, and water holds a lot of memory. So that's why there are, certain rivers or certain lakes or whatever have certain reputations and stuff. So
Yeah. Well, and even like when you think about, you were talking about concentration of like energy and stuff, like even fairies and stuff. I feel like I've always been so drawn to like fairies in the forest because it's like people I think it's like funny or like fake, but people don't realize like they'll fuck with you, they'll take your stuff, like you can like piss them off. And like I love when I go places and I see little fairy gardens that people make. That's like my favorite.
yeah, there's so many different there's a lot out there. Like so many things that we can't even like comprehend. Like there's these things called duendes, which they're little like I guess imps.
Okay.
Like this person, I don't know what country they were in, but it was a Latin American country. It was either a Latin American country or it was a Caribbean country. And they were a small child and they really enjoyed like, playing in the forest with their cousins and things like that. And so one day, was it a Reddit story? It might have been. I don't know. One day, like he had gone, and I think he was maybe like 6 or 7 at this time, something like that. So he's playing in the forest or whatever. Then he meets this little I don't know if it disguised itself as I don't think he like thought anything of it. So he probably like the imp probably like disguised itself as a kid. And like they were playing in the forest, and so he thought that he was just playing for like a regular like amount of time, like nothing too crazy. And when it was time for him to go home, like it was really hard for him to find his way home. But when he finally did, like all of his family was like super like worried about him because he had been gone for like way longer than he thought he had been gone, like hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And like they had thought he was missing.
Oh my God.
And yeah, so it's really interesting when people talk about like time warps or like, I don't know, like just being like what you were talking about with the show that you were talking about, going all these different directions, trying to get out of the place, but still ending up on the same road.
Well, when people say like, if you ever see like in the forest, like a little archway or something or stairs leading up to archway, to never walk through it because it could change you into like a time warp or something.
Yeah. It's just very scary. I've been feeling the urge that I need to like start watching the Twilight Zone again. So I think I'll need to look into that because that was another thing that I was watching the Twilight Zone more so like when I was a teenager, like when I was in high school. Like I would come back from school and watch the Twilight Zone. I think that's where I learned the phrase "truth is stranger than fiction."
Because
'Cause it
honestly,
is.
that's true. That is so fucking true. Like when you think about literally anything, like government, even all the shit with like Jeffrey Epstein, like the deeper you get into it and the more truth you learn about it, it's way fucking crazier and weirder than you ever thought.
Yeah.
Like it's a mind fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think if I've learned anything in the last couple of years is that you can't like put anything past anybody. And,
Yeah.
I think there's this, I don't remember, like a theory or the school of thought. I don't know exactly what it's called, but it's like we see a lot of these like fantasy things and like movies and stuff like that that depict all this crazy stuff. And then sometimes it ends up like happening. And so it's like the law of, I don't know, but basically it's saying that like before things happen, like it has to be shown to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like things can't happen until it's shown to you. So like some of the things that we see that we're just like, oh, that's, that could never happen. Like that's just fantasy. Like, no, it can,
Honestly,
it's a preparation. It's not
yes.
a,
Because like me and Sam are actually talking about that and how it's like because we were talking about what is it called? ESP? Yeah, ESP where basically like because I got down on a TikTok rabbit hole of these kids talking about how they're in this like accelerated program in school and like but they would go to like a special building and they were called like gate kids and they went and like a lot of them are like I don't even remember what stuff went on but like people are basically insinuating like they're trying to test children's abilities for things and like if they had any supernatural abilities just stuff like that and just how like the CIA has had like these kind of like almost like Stranger Things, like where it's like they run tests on all these kids to see how far they can push the human body. And I mean, honestly, even actually, one of my clients, so she is from Ukraine and she's honestly one of my favorite clients. We always talk conspiracy theories. But when she was younger, before she left, there was a point in time where her and this other little girl were like not with her parents. Like she was at this like facility and there was like, she thinks they were like testing on them with like, they don't know if it was like drugs or whatever. But there was a bunch of time where like she doesn't remember stuff. And like, yeah, then eventually like she got like back to her parents, but she was gone for like a long time. And but she remembers this other little girl she was with, like I think they were maybe like harming her, sexually assaulting her or something like that. But yeah, like they used to have like experiments there and stuff. And she was like, yeah, it was a thing back then where like you couldn't tell the government of Russia no, like they just come and take your kids. And so they ended up moving here when she was a little bit older and now they all like live here. But yeah, like there's a lot of governments that do that to kids. But like you said, because the truth sounds stranger, they're like, there's no way they'd ever do that. They do. They always do. Anytime I'm like, no, they've already done it. Probably a lot of times as well. But yeah, there's like a lot of people even like astro projecting like in dreams like there's people that have been in the government that come out and are like yeah like I was trained to like do that.
Yeah, or remote viewing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. That's what's
Yeah. So yeah, it's really scary. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's like, oh, okay. So if you're making a TV show about this, then things are already, the things are already in motion.
And that's why again Handmaid's Tale with what's going on. We've seen it play out. And when you watch it, they're like, yeah, when they gutted Congress, we did nothing. What did we refer back to with our current events? Oh, they're trying to gerrymander and take over Texas, which is usually the first to fall. Like we see it with fucking like during the Civil War, like the South broke off, like it always kind of starts there and then it trickles down because of, religion. So also in the show, religion, white Christian nationalist in the show. In real life, white Christian nationalists. Congress was falling, not upholding the Constitution in the show. Now where are we? Oh, the same thing is happening. Attacking abortion rights in the show. They've already attacked abortion rights in real life. Please. It's right in front of our faces.
Yeah, the parallels are paralleling severely.
It's like a mirror at this point.
Yeah.
But that's why I went today to talk about sterilization. Woo! So I'm gonna, I think, get my tubes cauterized, and I'm really excited. So more to come on that.
Yes. Yeah, because no, childbirth just seems too much.
Mm-mm. And especially how they're treating women that do get pregnant worse than animals. So letting them die in parking lots. Who wants to have a kid with that?
Yeah, not. And we have to remember that, a lot of these things are happening because there was basically women in their 40s are having more children than women in their like teens and 20s and
Oh my
things like
God, I
that.
love that.
Yeah, so the birth rate is actively declining.
Woo!
So yeah, that's why a lot of these policies are coming into place to restrict women's rights, because as we know, when women are, have more autonomy over their own lives and, have more education, they have children later. They usually have less children, or they decide, not to have children at all. So there's a reason why we're like, all of these laws are not coming together right now, out of thin air for no reason.
Right.
So
all about control, government control.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and on that note, there's another Greek myth that it's the myth of Prometheus. He is the thief of fire. And so basically him and Zeus had this like beef, and he was like, well, because he was considered a god too, but he's like, I'm for the people, so like I'm gonna help out. So basically it started when he took the fire from Zeus, and then he was like, I'm gonna go give it to the humans. And so when we look at that, it was like, oh, well, fire could like be like knowledge or power, but I kind of like it because it's like, stealing from the elite and giving to the everyday human citizens, and then like they took it from there. But yeah, Zeus was like really mad, so he had Prometheus chained to a rock where an eagle was to eat his eternally replenished liver every day. So obviously he was a god, so it kept coming back. So yeah, that's what he did. And basically Prometheus was one of the Titans who was at some point were sent to Tartarus by the enraged Zeus, who didn't accept the Tartarians fighting against him in the famous battle of the Titans. However, Prometheus was not directly involved in the war, so Zeus saved him from Tartarus and gave him a mission, and that was to form a man from water and earth, and Prometheus accomplished that task. But while working on his creation, he grew fond of men. He didn't much care about the gods and the hierarchy, and however friendly treated by them, he was much more comfortable being around the immortals. So, in any case, Zeus's idea was not to have men with any unusual power, and so, but Prometheus was thinking the other way, and he decided to steal the powers from Zeus, which was the fire, and so. Prometheus started to think about stealing the fire, and he was like, "Oh, it's easy." But then it did prove to be a little bit more complicated because Prometheus, known for his wit and his intelligence, he had an immediate plan, and it was to trick the goddesses, throwing them a golden pear, which was I guess some version it's an apple, into the courtyard with a message for the most beautiful goddesses of all. So he's like, yeah, I got this, you know? So it worked as planned, and the goddesses started a fight over the fruit while gods were completely enjoying the scene. Wow. Even back then, they're dogs. Okay. All of them were distracted, and Prometheus didn't have a hard time stealing the fire from Hephaestus' workshop. Hephaestus, thanks. Hephaestus was among the other stuff, the Greek god of fire. Prometheus happily left the god's playground and took the fire with him, either in a hollowed pumpkin or a hollow reed. It depends upon the interpretation, and brought it to Earth and gave it to the humans. Zeus was super pissed, and after so many times by being defiled by Prometheus, Zeus decided that it was enough. Nevertheless, he made Hephaestus himself chain him to the mountain, and where the eagle would eat his liver forever. But time passed, and Zeus offered at one occasion to free him in exchange for a revelation of the prophecy that predicted the dethroning of Zeus. Prometheus was like, nope. But then later, Zeus's son Hercules, on his journey to fulfill the 12 labors, passed by the Mount Caucasus, saw Prometheus, and decided to kill the eagle and free the chained Titan. Zeus was very great. I can't talk today, gosh. Was very angry initially, but eventually agreed to grant Prometheus his freedom. Well, some sort of freedom, because Zeus wanted Prometheus to carry the reminder of his punishment forever. He ordered Prometheus to steal a ring from the chains he was in and wear that ring from then on. Since then, mankind started creating rings in order to celebrate Prometheus and his commemorate his help. So apparently that's where we got rings from, was Prometheus, because he gave us fire and was like, fuck the hierarchy. I'm going to help out my fellow men. And that's also why I like that story, because it's like, we need more people like that.
Very interesting. Yes, there's so many myths and so many explanations, which is super cool. But yeah, Sam has a fun fact for us, so we're gonna kick it over to him.
Catches it with right foot, scores into the goal. Thank you, Kylie, for passing it back over. So I actually have two. The first one is going to be about the 9 muses, since we're talking about Greek mythology. And these are close to home for me because they are 9 goddesses of inspiration for literature, science, and the arts and other various creative fields. Their names are Calliope, which is epic poetry. I'm not sure exactly what. When I learned this back in like middle school, I didn't know what epic poetry was back then. I don't know what it is back now, but we're gonna continue. There's Cleo, which is history. Errado, which is love poetry. That's where we get erotica. Euterpe, lyric poetry. Melpomnia, which is tragedy. Polyhymny, which is hymns. Terpsichore, which is dance, Thelia, which is comedy, and Urania, which is astronomy. Their fathers are Zeus and the Titaness of memory, Nemazini, the goddess of memory.
I never heard about her before.
Me neither, not before reading this. And some famous people who have paid homage to the muses in the past have been Beethoven, Robert Schumann, Jonathan Bach, William Shakespeare, Virgil, and Homer, all of whom have paid homage to the muses, basically coming down and granting them this inspiration or this knowledge or planting this idea in their head. And also, a producer by the name of Rick Rubin has also, and Rick Rubin is a very big producer in the hip hop scene. He's produced like Beach Boys, Backstreet Boys as well. He's even produced for Katy Perry and Madonna and Kesha. Very privileged. Red Hot Chili Peppers too, and he's also paid homage to the muses in a way of creating this idea where they come down and bestow knowledge, and the ideas come to you, and not so much as you have control over them, which I thought was very interesting. The second part, I know this is a longer Sam's fun fact. The second part is the Stargate project, which you mentioned earlier. I just wanted to give a couple little things on them. One, it was very much real. As part of the FOIA Act, the documents regarding the Stargate project were released to the public. It was a decades-long U.S. government research program involving the CIA, DIA, and the Army, investigating the potential military applications of psychic phenomena, primarily remote viewing, which you mentioned earlier, Kylie. It was a consolidated program established by the Army at Fort Meade in 1977 and ended in 1995 after the CIA reportedly concluded it was not useful for intelligence operations. Lies. They're so using that today. They just shut down the program and made it seem like they stopped researching it. But anyways, there's also a movie also starring Ewan McGregor called The Men Who Stare at Goats, which was a comedy surrounding the Stargate project.
So again, we saw it in a movie, and it's actually going on.
Yeah.
And that has been Sam's fun facts.
Sam?
Yes, thank you for the double dose of the fun facts. Those were very interesting tidbits. Excuse me. And so to close out our show, this episode, we definitely want to thank you all for tuning in as always, and we'll catch you on the flip side. But I'm Kylie.
I'm Payton.
And this has been Fires of Change.